Here to talk to us a little bit about Preparedness Month, which happens to be in September, is our Calhoun County Director of Emergency Management. Durk Dunham is here. Durk, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. Boy, this notion of preparedness on the individual level was probably, I'm tempted to say, born out of the 9/11 experience, but maybe it was certainly amplified by that. Is that fair to say?
I think both are true. It was born and immediately amplified. So you're absolutely right. It was really the catalyst for people to become aware of situations that they weren't expecting. That's putting it mildly. They say we all remember where we were on 9/11, and I think that's true. And it's indicative of understanding the responsibility you have to yourself, to your family, to your friends, to take some ownership on being prepared for disasters or emergencies.
So what does that mean if we, in addition to thinking about where we were, think about where we're going and being prepared as an individual? What does that mean for us? What should we be doing?
I think there's a misconception, and largely because of TV shows we watch, I watch, you watch, and you have to have $1 million to be truly prepared. You got to build an underground bunker, and that's great. If you have the money and you want to do that, more power to you. I like to start out simple. Have supplies for 3 days. Have a 72-hour supply window, and inside that 72 hours, you should be planning on no lights, no phones, no accessible food. In other words, if the grocery store's power's out, they're not going to be open.
Right.
We could start out with flashlights and water, some canned food. Don't forget your pets. Have some extra pet food. That's really where it begins, and certainly we can ramp it up from there. Having extra medication if you can. An extra set of eyeglasses. With regards to flashlights, one of the things that happens, and I don't want to forget to interject this, is people will go to grab that flashlight they haven't touched in a year and then find out the batteries are dead. It's a very common thing, and so I suggest that you store the batteries separately, together, but separate from the inside of the flashlight.
Leave them out of the light.
Extra set. Have more than one set of batteries.
Durk Dunham is here. Preparedness Month in September. We'll pick up where we leave off in just a minute on WBCK. September is Preparedness Month, and here is Durk Dunham with the Calhoun County Emergency Management Office to talk to us a little bit about that. I made the connection between the notion of 9/11 and being prepared, but really, we don't have to be in like a scene from the day after here to have an opportunity to employ these preparedness items that you've referred to. A lot of times it's just the weather.
Well, yeah, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that we, from a disaster or a risk management standpoint, we don't have a volcano. We don't have hurricanes per se. We get aftermath, sometime rain. But for the most part, we don't have huge things to worry about in this county. As you know, other counties have different risks, nuclear power plants and so on. But with Calhoun County, the absolute number one risk is weather, for sure.
And that could just be a storm that goes by in 5 minutes. We saw that recently, a set of tornadoes that went through, was it Van Buren County and Allegan County? And
yes.
Some places were in dire straits there for a few minutes, and that's all it takes.
I remember the National Weather Service calling me. It was either late that night, or I think it was in the middle of the night, actually, and they were putting their data together and wanted to know if I'd had any reports of tornadoes in our county, which we did not, thankfully. But they looked at 5 and I think added a 6th one. I might be wrong on that, but I know they had 5 separate incidents. It's really, I think, a real responsibility that you have to yourself, to your family and friends. As I said earlier, Sheriff Saxton and I share a theme in the sheriff's office. And the theme that the sheriff and I share, Sheriff Saxton, is the fact that we want the citizens of this community to be safe. And so we have to minimize that risk. And I've got a few things we can talk about to do that.
How do we do that?
One of the things is, well, this is easy stuff too. We talked about preparedness with just some basics: food, water, batteries for your flashlight, and so on. For more information on that, and I'll repeat this again when we're almost done, www.calhouncountysheriff.info takes you to the emergency management section of the county website, the sheriff's office website, and there's many links there that will help you. Ready.gov is a good one. But to go back, we really, as far as the citizens being prepared, the one thing that I ask everybody to do is please consider, if you haven't already, an app for your phone. We're so fortunate, we are so lucky that we have a device that is with us pretty much 24/7 that can strike out an alarm, strike out an alert at us in a 24/7 fashion that alerts us to imminent danger. Wow, how simple is that? But yet people get busy, and I understand, and they don't take the time to actually physically do it. The one that we subscribe to in Calhoun County, which really is our preference, is a thing called Nixle, Nixle, Nixle. And you can actually sign up for Nixle by just Googling Nixle. It's very easy to do. If you're not computer savvy or tech savvy, you can do it, trust me. If there are problems with it, certainly you could call my office and I'd walk you through it, but you won't have problems. Nixle, Nixle, is also a link is available on the website if you go to the calhouncountysheriff.info.
calhouncountysheriff.info. That's not necessarily a dot we hear as much as some of the others. So .info.
Yeah, .info.
So what does Nixle do then? That app, is that going to go off like that Amber Alert thing in the middle of the night if we need it, that's really going to wake us up if we need to be awakened?
Okay, this is a perfect question. Absolutely. No, it is. It really is, because I'm one of those people. Of course, I kind of sit a little differently than most because I have to be woken up in the middle of the night, usually dispatched. But here's what I did. I sat down with Jim Asco from the National Weather Service. He's the warning coordination meteorologist for the National Weather Service. Spent a half hour together, and I said, Jim, show me the ones that I should be attaching to Nixle. I don't want to drive somebody out in the middle of the night. I don't want to use one that you guys aren't using because they have this huge list, Richard, of all these things, everything from an earthquake to... So I narrowed it down to those that I felt were important or serious enough that people should get a notification 24/7.
Okay.
Tornado warning is an obvious one. Thunderstorm warning is an obvious one. There are many others. You have the ability to silence your phone. You have the ability to turn these off. There are ways that you can kind of coordinate it to your own, sleep habits and schedule.
Okay. That's good to know because, it's one of those boundary walk kind of things.
Yeah.
You want to know, but if it doesn't affect you, you tend to curse it.
Right, and that first Amber Alert that goes off is a little, it can be shocking.
Oh, man. I was like that cat in the cartoon that jumps to the ceiling and shakes there.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't the
2
only
o'clock
one.
in the morning, man. And I think it was a weekend, too. I mean, usually during the week, it's not too far from my alarm. But, yeah, it was pretty alarming on purpose. But, I mean, you get the point.
Pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended. But if you want to try and manage that, this is good to know.
Yeah.
So that Nixle app will allow you to do that.
Yes. And, boy, you can join the many thousands that are, and some people have it. They say, I watch TV, I'm informed. I've got a weather radio sitting next to me at home. But my mom, my grandma, they don't. And so they'll use the app. It'll go off, and they'll get on the phone and call grandma, who might be by herself or with grandpa, and they don't have that.
Right.
And they say, listen, I just got an alert. And the cool thing is that the alert that you get is seconds after the National Weather Service has put it out. So it's not like there's a 5-minute delay. That's the old days. It's the 21st century now.
Durk Dunham is here from the Emergency Management Office in Calhoun County. Preparedness Month. We'll talk a little bit more about how to be better prepared if a storm rolls through or some sort of emergency situation. Coming up in just a minute on WBCK. Durk Dunham is here from the Emergency Management Office, Calhoun County Sheriff's Department. So the package of stuff that we should have, the app on our phones. Should we talk to our families about what happens in an emergency situation? I mean, some of us might be home, some of us might not, that sort of thing.
Yeah, this digs in a little deeper, and for some people it can be a little frightening, but it's better to do it than not. And that simply is to have a family plan that goes beyond, if there's a fire, we all exit, whatever door,
meet out by the mailbox or something.
Window, yeah. But the thing that concerns me is if it is a catastrophic type disaster, and the cell phone towers go out, and I mean we're talking a large disaster here, hard to think about, hard to talk about. Your phone goes down, your parents' phone goes down, your girlfriend, husband, wife, boyfriend, whatever it might be, there's no cell coverage. Have a spot that has been pre-designated that you could meet at. Have a secondary spot if that spot is destroyed or not, not available.
And keeping in mind that if it's catastrophic enough, we may not be able to get there.
That's exactly right. And I think one of the things, the main thing that a family thinks about is, oh my gosh, where's my husband? Oh my gosh, where's my son? Those are normal reactions, and they become a number one priority over batteries and flashlights and all that other stuff. It's like, I want my kids.
Yep.
And I get that, and I think that at the very least, sitting down and having communication about it. You don't necessarily have to pick a spot where it's mandatory you meet. It might not be safe to do that, depending on what the situation is.
Right.
But there needs to be some conversation ahead of time to discuss what would happen if all of our cells went down.
Mm-hmm. And most of us now don't even have a landline phone at home.
That's right, yeah.
Not that in certain circumstances would be working anyway, but that option just isn't there any longer. You see the billboards around promoting ready.gov. You mentioned it a minute ago. This is a national website that gives us some perspective about preparedness too, right?
Yeah. FEMA operates as a division out of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which was birthed from 9/11 15 years ago. Ready.gov is at your convenience, at your time schedule. You can go into your computer or your cell phone, and you can look at some very detailed information that we couldn't possibly cover in a few minutes here.
Yeah.
So you can go in, even as a business owner, you can go in and look at help with your business plans. As an individual, they really drill down on stuff to put in your kit. I mean, we could go on for an hour about what to put in a survival kit. I don't think we'd get enough message out if we did that, but I think it's important for people to look into it and to examine it and pay more attention to that personal responsibility they have, which is safety.
Ready.gov, and you'll see all that information there. The other website, Calhoun County Sheriff.info.
Yes, and the ready.gov is a link in there, and Nixel's in there. So I've kind of put things in there. It's one page, so you go in there and you go up and down the page, and you can click on some things that might be of interest to you.
So in terms of emergency management response, you said storms are the number one thing.
Yes.
What's 2 and 3 on that list?
Well, we have, there's product that consumers use, we have to use, that travels by the railway, travels by truck on our major interstates. And, there occasionally are accidents or mishaps that some of these chemicals may be released. And so we have to be ready for those kinds of situations as well.
Okay. And we do hear, you talked about nuclear power plants, we do hear some folks talk about that with concerns for safety. Now, the closest one is far away by measurement of miles, but still pretty close, right?
Yeah, well, it is, and we have contingency plans, which I won't get into. It's really not a public thing, but we don't have the responsibility that they do being in their county. It is an amazing amount of scientific work and technology that goes into running a plant, and then an equal amount that goes into protecting the plant.
Right. All right. So that's probably what we needed to hear, Durk.
Yes. Yeah.
You're ready?
It's,
we appreciate that.
That's right.
All right. So, again, let's say that website one more time, if you would.
It is calhouncountysheriff.info. And if you go on there, and I hope that you do, you'll see some links. You could even go on if you're living in, say, Athens or Albion. You can click your weather for today. I've got weather links. So if you want an instant weather, you go there, you click Marshall, and you'll see what Marshall's weather is today.
And that app, Nixle,
yes.
Nixle.
Correct. You can Google it. You can find it on the website, on my website, on our website.
All right. Thank you, Dirk.
You're very welcome, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Durk Dunham is the Calhoun County Director of Emergency Management Services. Preparedness Month in September.